Good day, my name is Tineil Swartbooi, student number 17347, and my lesson topic is going to be on pollution, and this is page 56 in the CAPS documents. The outcomes for the lesson is that learners will acknowledge that pollution has a great effect on the environment and how we live. Learners will acknowledge that human and human factors play a large role in the creation of pollution, and that pollution has a negative effect on human health. By learners acknowledging that pollution has a great effect on our environment, it will help them understand that not only are we affected, but the land that we live on, the food that we eat, the animals in the ocean and the animals on land are affected. So they understand that everything around us is affected, like the ozone layer, and as well as the ice glaciers, and all of that is affected by pollution. When doing the lesson developments, the teacher will first show the learners a poster before she shows the learners the video. She will ask the learners, what do they see in the video? What all do they see in the video? Learners could say that they see a car that's smoking, or a factory that's letting smoke go in the air. They could say that they are seeing that they are seeing oil coming out of the oil container into the water. When the teacher is done showing the learners the poster, she's going to tell the learners that she's going to play them the video now, and they need to listen carefully in order to answer the teacher's questions. The teacher will stop the video in between to ask learners certain questions and to help them remember what has been said during the video. At the end of the video, the teacher will ask the learners some more questions, even repeat some of the questions that she's asked, to check if the learners understood the video and if the learners were paying attention during the video. Some of the questions that could be asked during and after the lesson, during and after the video, could be: what is pollution? What causes pollution? How does pollution affect the environment? And what illnesses does pollution cause? When the teacher is done asking these questions, she will show learners the poster again and ask the learners what type of pollution do they think that it causes. So the teacher will say oil spilling in water, or she could also ask the learners what is happening here, and they could say oil is spilling into the water, and the teacher can ask the learners what type of pollution does it cause, and then the learners can say water pollution. And then the teacher can also ask the learners, if oil goes into the water, how do you think it can affect the ocean, the animals? What do you think it will happen to them? How will it? Teachers can also ask learners, what is this? Learners could say that it is a waste truck that is picking up solid waste. And the teacher can ask the learners, where do they pick up the bags? And learners could say that they could pick the bags up from homes or their house. And then the teacher can ask the learners, what type of pollution does it affect? Learners could say soil pollution. The teacher could also ask the learners, how do they think that the solid waste would pollute the soil? The teacher can continue doing that until most of the pictures are done on the poster. When the teacher is done showing the poster, and she can also explain to learners about pollution. So the teacher can ask the learners, what is pollution? Then the teacher can also say that pollution is gases, smoke, and chemicals that are introduced into our environment in large amounts, and it is harmful to plants, animals, and humans. Pollution hurts our environment by depleting. Pollution can deplete our ozone layer. The word deplete means makes it thin. So makes it thin, makes it thin. So pollution makes the ozone layer thin, and the ozone layer protects us from the sun's rays. So then you tell the learners, when you feel the warmth of the sun in your body, that's the sun's rays. And it causes illnesses like asthma, which is a breathing problem, and it can kill animals in the ocean, because animals end up eating solid waste. What is solid waste? Solid waste is whatever we put in our black plastics. That is solid waste. So animals end up eating that in the ocean, and then they end up dying from them, or they get caught in solid waste in the ocean and they end up dying, as well as oil does the exact same thing to the animals. Also, when they do deforestation, what is deforestation? Deforestation is cutting down of trees. Say cutting down of trees, cutting down of trees. That happens. When that happens, then we have less oxygen in the air, because trees give us oxygen. When we let off carbon dioxide, then they give us oxygen. That's how a teacher could also explain it to learners. You could also say that in the South Pole and the North Pole, which is the top of the earth, they have like big glaciers, which is like icebergs. So it's like ice that's really big. But when the ozone layer is made thin from pollution, because the rays come down and they're warmer than they're supposed to, they end up melting these glaciers, and then it causes the sea level to rise. So you could explain it like that to learners. Asking learners questions about the pictures. The teacher will go through new words that learners have learned in the video, or that learners have recognized. So the teacher will be introducing new words to the learners, but the teacher will not give learners the full explanation, as learners are too young to understand words like carbon dioxide. They are too big for the learners, and words like carbon monoxide and harmful chemicals. So the teacher will say, this word is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide. And then learners will repeat after her, carbon monoxide. The teacher will then explain to the learners that carbon monoxide comes from cars. The teacher will say this word is carbon dioxide. So learners will say carbon dioxide. The teacher will ask learners, where do they think carbon dioxide comes from? Based on the learner's answer, the learner could either be correct, or the teacher could say carbon dioxide is released when we breathe out. So the teacher can ask the learners to take a deep breath and to breathe out. The teacher can explain that air is carbon dioxide that is being released from our bodies. Some of the words on the flashcards the learners will recognize, like if I have to ask the learners, explosion. Does anyone know the word explosion? The learners could pick up their hands. And then the teacher could ask them, what do you think the word explosion is? And based on what the learners say, the learner could either be correct or wrong. But the teacher will say, an explosion is like a big bang. So everyone is going to go, and that is going to explain an explosion to the learners. The teacher can also explain dirty water to learners. The teacher can ask learners what is dirty water and they can explain, as well as the teacher can demonstrate dirty water for the learners. So she can ask them what water is this. Learners could say it's clean water. And then she could get dirty and put it in a glass. And stir it and stir it and stir it. And then ask learners, what water is this? And learners could say that this is dirty water. The teacher could ask learners, do you think that you could drink this water? And learners could say, no, you can't drink the water. Then the teacher can ask the learners, why can't you drink the water? When the teacher is done with the introducing the new words, the teacher will show learners a few pictures, 1 or 2 pictures of what the environment looks like. So she will show pictures of dead fish. The teacher will show learners of a boy playing in water that has solid waste in and that is dirty, so that learners can understand. And she will explain that learners in poor environments stay in this living condition because they are poor. They end up staying with a whole lot of pollution, with feces all over, sometimes with dirty water. There's a lot of waste in the areas that they stay in because they don't have a lot of money to go and live in better places. So the teacher is going to show learners a few pictures of how the environment is infected so that learners can know that the environment goes from good to bad. The teacher will also show learners pictures of like the glaciers before there was a lot of pollution and what the glaciers look like now. After the pictures, the teacher will divide the learners into groups of 4. Learners will be doing group work so that they can help each other with these assignments and try to remember what was in the video and where to place the pictures. So learners will be given pictures and the words affect the air, affect the soil, and affect the land. And learners have to cut out the pictures and stick all the pictures that will affect the air under affect the air, that will affect the land under affect the land, and that will affect the soil under what will affect the soil, and the water. Learners also have to write one type of illness that is caused in air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution that they remember from the video. If learners do not remember what it causes, that is also okay. Learners will also receive an A3 paper for them to do their group work on. Based on the video that the learners have watched, the teacher will give learners these pictures, and these are the words: affect the air, the land, and water. And learners have to cut these pictures up and stick them under one of the headings. Affect air, land, and water is a heading, and learners have to cut up these pictures and paste them on an A3 paper. So this will be the end result that the learners will do, and in these spaces learners will say that this causes asthma and so forth. The learners could also ask to watch the video again to see what type of illnesses is caused. Learners have to cut it in the pictures when they are done. Excuse me, sorry. So the video I will be doing is called Learn About Pollution, and in this video they describe what pollution is. They speak about air, water, and soil pollution. It explains what the causes of these types of pollution is. So it shows learners like pictures of factories and cars and oil spilling into the water. It speaks about how pollution infects our environment. So it tells learners that So it tells learners that it affects our soil, that it affects ecosystems, that affects a whole lot of things in our environment. It also speaks about and explains how pollution affects our health as humans. So it explains that it causes asthma, respiratory problems. It also says that humans and human factors are a major cause and have a major role in pollution. And that is important because learners need to know that us as humans also play a very large part in pollution. This video also explains how we can decrease our contribution to pollution. So it says ways that where we can plant trees in cases of deforestation, how we can ride a bike instead of using cars, how we can eat organic fruits. And this video is also an animation which will attract learners' attention as well because they love animation. This video is linked to my lesson because it describes everything that is linked with pollution. Like everything. It even explains how we can reduce our part in pollution, which is good for learners to know. And it does all of this only in 6 minutes. It is also linked to my lesson because it includes how pollution affects our environment, and this is the main topic of this is the main focus on pollution that I'm doing, because I want learners to acknowledge that pollution does have a great and a major factor on our environment around us. Because the video explains what causes pollution, but also says what pollution is and what types of pollution we have, that is all linked with my activity. So this entire video is linked to my entire lesson on pollution. There's mainly 3 parts from the video that are included in and during my lesson, but it's mainly in the discussion and in the activity of the lesson. When I am done watching the video with the learners, we will discuss about the video. So I would ask the learners, like, regarding the video that they have watched, how do they feel about pollution? How do they think that pollution affects the environment? What do they think happens to the animals in the ocean? I want to get the learners' opinion in pollution. Is important for them to express themselves. So the teacher can ask the learners, or I can ask the learners, various questions on the video and how they feel about it. I could ask them, how do they think the animals feel when there is pollution in the ocean? How do they think if they were poor and they had to stay in poor conditions, how do they think they would feel as one of the children to stay in poor conditions, to stay in a place that has lots of dirt, that is smelling, that the water's dirty, and they have to drink in some places they have to drink that water? How would they feel about it? The teacher will also let the learners know that they could write a paragraph of at least 6 to 8 lines for them to explain how they feel about pollution from what they've seen from the video, and also from watching the video, what they think could be done to help reduce the pollution that is in our environment. For my self-reflection, I feel like maybe I could have given the groups for the activity one pollution to focus on, instead of them having to do all 3 pollutions in one poster. I could have also made learners, as 3 of them or 2 of them were doing the poster, the other 2 could have wrote how they felt in paragraphs about the poster. I could have used smaller words instead of using bigger words like carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. Yeah, but the success of this lesson was due to learners participating and their excitement about learning about pollution, as well as the video was a really big help. I could have possibly given learners more information about the effects that it has on the environment, and instead of showing them a poster, I could have showed them more pictures on the effects of the environment. So instead of telling them more about what causes pollution and what affects the environment, I could have shown them much more about what is actually affecting our environment. The pictures that show a lot about the effects of the environment. Yeah, I was teaching grade 3 and it was term 3, pollution. My topic was, or main focus was on the effects of the environment that pollution has, but I could have emphasized more on that than me emphasizing more on the learners knowing what is causing the effects of pollution. I do feel like the poster played a great big part in learners learning in the video, although I could have made the poster like a bit bigger. The poster could have been a bit bigger for the learners to see, which would have been much better for them. I could have asked learners more about pollution and how they felt about it so that they could express themselves more, and then I would see if what I taught actually had an effect on them or whether it didn't. I could have engaged more with the learners and asked them more questions when I ended the video, and I could have maybe stopped in between to ask learners if they saw these words that I introduced, if they've seen it before, and introduced it to them during the video and not all at the end of the video. For the activity, I could have focused less on on learners having to write what type of illness it causes, because that's more in humans, and rather could have asked them to write how that affects the environment or how it affects the animals. Like for air, they could have said it causes diseases, because in air we breathe the air in, so it causes diseases. But for land, they could have said it affects our food, and because of the soil being damaged, the crops are not growing to the capacity that's supposed to, or the vegetables are not growing to the capacity that it's supposed to, because the land is overused. And for water, they could have said animals are dying because they are either getting entangled in the solid waste, and that's them dumping toxins into the water could affect us as humans because we drink the water. As well as I could have explained I could have explained solid waste to learners and told them that solid waste is like a solid form, like our dirt that we throw away, plastic bins, our chips. I could have found things that would relate much more to the learners than me just trying to get the pollution point to them. And I have presented 20 minutes of my lesson.